Thanks for coming tonight. I really appreciate it. My name's Kelly Homewood. I'm president of the Gazette and Gazette Communications. The Gazette's proud to launch Gazette Travel with 4 trips, starting with the Italy trip that we're going to talk about tonight. We're also going to the Canadian Rockies, a river cruise down the Blue Danube, and to Australia and New Zealand next year. So lots of exciting trips. Gazette Travel is a natural extension of our brand that is trust. And the reason that we introduced Gazette Travel is for a couple of reasons. Number one is the increased engagement that we'll have with our audience as we travel and learn about new cultures and visit new places together. Another is it's a revenue arm that helps us fund local journalism, which is really important to the community of Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, Lynn and Johnson County. We chose to partner with World Premier Travel, and Keith is with World Premier Travel. You'll be learning a lot from him. He's going to be the majority of this meeting and show you all the great pictures. But we chose World Premier Travel after a lot of research because they're a very trusted, well-known brand in this group travel business, and they had great references, and they're just really great people and good to work with. So we know that they're going to be fantastic trips. So you'll hear more from Keith in just a few minutes. We do have a Gazette host on each of the trips, and the host for the Italy trip is Amy McKelvey. Amy is our Director of Brand and Revenue Initiatives, and she's really excited about Italy. It was one of her first choices. So I'm going to let her talk a little bit about what she's excited about.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Like Kelly said, I'm Amy. Hopefully, we'll all get to go to Italy together. I have been with the Gazette for about 8 years, so always on the business side. I am nowhere near the newsroom, but very much appreciate everybody that we have on that side, and am lucky to get to help find some of the revenue to support what we do in the newsroom. So I am married. My husband's name's Dave. We have 2 girls that are going into 5th grade and 9th grade. So we have high school starting, which is a whole new experience. We live in Solon, but I am super pumped to go on this trip. It's the first trip that we get to do, which is its own exciting piece of it. But I have done some international travel and not a lot. So I've never been to Italy. I'm very excited for the culture, the history. I just think it's so rich in there. So it seems a little silly, but one of the things I'm most excited about is looking at the brochure, like the views, the water. It's just incredible. And there's so much history packed in there. Excited about the pizza making class, all of the places that we'll go. And I'm also excited just to kind of travel as a large group to get to know the other travelers and why everybody else is excited to go, and just for that experience also, because I think it'll be a lot of fun. So if there's any other questions you have about me, I will be here after the meeting, and I'm happy to talk to anyone or answer questions, and look forward to hopefully traveling with you guys.
How about limoncellos? Are you excited about
I am excited about limoncellos. Yes, very much so. How
about wine?
I am.
Some pasta.
Very excited about pasta. I'm all about carbs, so yes, I'm all about the pasta. Yes, maybe we'll do some walking to burn off the calories, and I won't feel guilty about it, but absolutely. So, yeah.
All right.
You bet.
I'm up next.
You're up next.
How's everybody doing? Good? Ready to talk about Italy? How many of some of you signed up already? I know we have a few signed up. You're already signed up already? Okay. How many were at the meeting? We did a kickoff meeting in June with some of you here. So you may hear a little bit of my spiel again, but I have 200 pictures of the trip. So we're going to go through the trip in depth. I don't read notes. I'm just going to kind of wander through the itinerary, tell you what we do. I know some of the slides are with the Gazette, and I know Kelly's already talked about it. This is our first year working with the newspaper here. This is their first year kicking off the travel program. We are starting off very, very well. I'd mentioned before at other meeting, we've worked with the Telegraph Herald in Dubuque for 13 years. It's the second largest group in the country for our company. They have 285 people going from Dubuque on trips this year. So we know this is going to take off. It's going to be a great opportunity for you to travel with the newspaper, and they are sending a host along so you don't get lost and you drink plenty of wine and have fun, right? So Grace is here in the back. Grace is going to come up later at the end and She's the main contact for you at the newspaper. She'll be taking the signups. Her and I talk pretty much every week. She'll work with our office in registering you on the trips and things like that. And as questions come up, they would go to Grace as well. I'm going to tell you a little about our company. You've probably never heard of us before. Again, my name is Keith Mills. I represent the company for 25 years now. I've been in the travel industry 35 years. I'm kind of a spoilt traveler. I've been on about 90 tours. I know a little bit about a lot of places, all right? So I'll throw a few tidbits of things in here, but you got to go on the tour to learn all the history, especially Italy, all the great history in Italy. And it is a great tour. Italy is the #1 destination for Americans to travel to in Europe. It has been for many, many years. We've been doing different parts of Italy. We have a northern Italy trip, we do a Tuscany, and this is the Amalfi coast and Sorrento. Top 10 destination for most Americans right now to go to Italy. We're going in April. You say, well, why aren't we going in the summer? You know why we don't go in the summer? It's too crowded, right? And it can get very hot in Italy. I just came back from England 2 weeks ago. It was 92 degrees in London. They don't have air conditioning everywhere. We rode in a car on a tour in Liverpool. It was a John Lennon replica. No air conditioning. In fact, the back windows didn't work, all right? And it was 92 degrees out. So we go to Europe typically in the spring and the fall, less crowded. That's when you want to go to Italy. That's when most American groups go. The summer, it's again very, very crowded. You've probably seen it in the news before where some of these cities are becoming overcrowded during summer travel. A few things about our company. You've probably not heard of us. We only work with groups and organizations in the United States. We don't sell directly to the public. We have about 12,000 people traveling with us this year, so we're a fairly large company based in Redondo Beach, California. We do about 80 different itineraries throughout the world. We're members of every major travel organization. Thank you. The main one, I think that, you know, if you're a traveler and you're traveling even with other companies, USTOA is the top organization in our country for tour operators. We put up $1 million bond to say that we're financially stable. So if I go to Kelly, she knows that we're a financially stable company. And since the pandemic, business is booming in travel. You probably have heard that before. Tell you a little story. Again, we've been a company a long time. 2020 hits. We go from a $25 million company to a $3 million company in 3 weeks. We returned like $18 million or over that in just a couple weeks. We're now at a $60 million company. We've doubled the size of the company since the pandemic. People are traveling. We're adding new itineraries. We just came out with a new bullet train in Japan tour. So there's people going places. So if you're interested in this trip, you know, you want to sign up fairly soon. I think it will fill. Hotels on all of our tours, and I'll show you pictures of the Italy hotels. We stay in 4-star hotels typically. If you've been to Sedona, Arizona, anybody been to Sedona? This is the Hilton in Sedona. This is the hotel that we use there. Chicago, we use the Palmer House. Anybody's ever seen the Palmer House? So typically historic hotels, good locations, but typically 4 stars. Breakfast is included every day. We include usually a welcome and a farewell dinner. On the Italy trip, it's going to be a farewell lunch. I'll show you that in a second. And they're usually different themed meals as well. You know, in Italy, you're going to have a little pasta or pizza while you're in Italy with some wine. Again, we got tours all over the world. We picked out 4 trips for this year for the newspaper. Again, a little bit on my recommendation, and they kind of chose ones that we thought would sell. Different parts of the world. You know, we got Canada going after this Italy trip. Then we're going on a Danube River cruise, and then the big one at the end of the year next year is Australia, New Zealand. We have a professional tour director with you throughout all of our tours. So in Italy, we're going to send an American employee of our company over to Italy so that they're the tour manager. And then you'll have some local guides with you in the different cities that we're visiting that will do the local commentary. This way we have somebody that represents our company. They represent our interests maybe a little stronger than a person in that country. Pam does a lot of our Europe trips. We've got several guides that do Italy specifically. So you'll have an American English-speaking guide with you throughout the trip. We will do travel in style. We have nice motor coaches. We are going to fly from Cedar Rapids, so that's a big plus. I think the first year we weren't sure what to do. Transfers from like Dubuque to Chicago, they're running us $3,000 to $4,000 round trip. So it was actually more affordable to fly you out of the Cedar Rapids airport. If the groups get very large, we may look at that, and you may be on split flights. You know, the planes aren't very big here. I've never flown to Cedar Rapids, but I'm assuming the planes aren't as big as some of the planes out of Chicago. So on this tour, you're going to fly from Cedar Rapids, and you're going to fly through Chicago in all likelihood and board a nonstop flight from Chicago going to Rome. We take good care of your suitcases throughout the trip. This is a joke. This is a picture from the Sacramento airport. They call it the Statue of Lost Luggage. But it's a reminder, if you've not been on a tour before, this is one of the conveniences. Your suitcases are picked up at your room, brought out to the coach, brought to the next hotel, and brought up to your room. Kelly, this was Kelly's suitcase, I think, on her last time. She's in the suitcase. Just a reminder, 50-pound limit on the Italy trip, and fee is included on an international trip, so you don't have to pay the fee. But we do limit it to 1 suitcase per person. You get a carry-on and then a personal item as well. We will have a meeting also for all that go. We'll meet here, probably here again before the trip, usually about 3 weeks. We'll hand out document packets, go through all the paperwork, flight schedules and all that, and any questions that we can answer. Usually about 3 weeks out is when we meet again before the trip. So we'll fly, it's about a 9-hour flight from Chicago. So if you're not a good sleeper, you got to look on the positive side, 2 movies and 2 meals at least, all right? But again, they turn the lights out, you'll get dinner after you take off. Lights will go down, and then there'll be another meal when you wake up in the morning if you do sleep on a plane. I'm not a great sleeper on planes. So this is our map and our itinerary. We've changed a little bit. We're going in and out of Rome, and we're doing Rome at the beginning. Last year we did Rome at the end, and with flight delays and things like that, this made more sense to start off in Rome. And then we're going to spend 4 nights, so it's kind of nice. You get to actually unpack your suitcase on a trip. Most people nowadays are looking for tours like this where you're not moving. You know, years ago, people used to do all of Italy in like 12 days. Now companies are doing it where they're zeroing in on certain areas, and this is the coastal part of Italy that we're going to be visiting. So these are all nice, very nice hotels. Again, we're going to be staying in Rome for 3 nights. We've got breakfast included every morning. These are typically buffet breakfasts on all of our tours, and then we'll have 4 dinners, and you always get a choice of entree. If you don't want pasta, there would be something else for you. There's always vegetarian dishes as well. So in the morning, again, you're going to get up and eat breakfast at your leisure. You don't have to eat with a group. If the breakfast area is open 6:30 to 9 or whatever, you can go down whenever you want. The tour guide will tell you what time we're leaving the next day for our tour. So arrive into Rome. Our tour guide will be meeting with you. Elena will be with you. Make sure you haven't got lost at the airport. And this is our first hotel. And it's got a nice swimming pool. Temperatures are going to be in the 60s, typically the 60s. So maybe swimming weather, you know, maybe not, but it'll be a nice time as far as weather. It's not going to be too hot, not too cold. Typical, if you've not, how many have been to Italy before? I should ask that. Somebody have been to Italy? You probably know the hotel rooms typically aren't as large as they are in the United States. They don't always have washcloths. Most of the hotels we use now in Europe have the hair dryers and things like that, but this is a typical room that you would see in a lot of hotels in Italy. It's a great location. It's right in the heart of Rome. This is the check-in area. When we arrive at the hotel, they'll have our keys ready, and our tour guide will hand out your keys. That is St. Peter's Basilica next to the hotel. You're walking distance to the Vatican. We'll talk a little about that in a second. So it's a great location. You can see everybody's got little balconies. There's a really good rooftop patio up top. So in the evening, if you want to go up for a glass of wine, you can go up on the top there. And then we will have our welcome dinner. One thing I should mention too is that, again, first year with the Gazette, you are going to be partnered with another group, in all likelihood from another part of the country. So we don't have to get 40 people for this to go, or even 20. If there's 15 people, the trip is still going. You may be traveling with people from California or somewhere, so the trip will go regardless of how many sign up. I know it's dinner time, right? Nobody's had dinner yet. You're going to run out to an Italian restaurant after this. So we will do a morning tour that second day. So you're going to fly in, you're going to meet the group, go to the hotel, have dinner that night at a local restaurant, and then the next morning you're going to go out on a tour. This is about a 3-hour city tour. This is not a walking tour. Rome is a big city. If you've not been to Rome before, you're going to be driving around on the coach, going to different sites. We are going to do a walking tour of the Colosseum. This is fairly involved. A lot of our tours in Europe, they use these whisper sets. Has anybody done that on a tour before? You get a little earpiece with a little box hangs around you. The tour guide talks into a microphone, and they don't have to yell anymore and wave flags and stuff. They can talk to you, can hear them very clearly. It's funny, I've been on a lot of tours. I was just in Croatia earlier this year, and I couldn't hear the guide anymore. I was lost. I lost them. They were walking too fast, and I was looking at some buildings, so I had to hurry up until I could hear them again. But we're going to do a tour of the Colosseum. You're going to walk in here. If you've not been here before, this is what the floor would be covering this, and these are the catacombs below there where they kept the gladiators and some of the lions and things that would go do battle in the Colosseum. So you're going to do a full tour. There'll be a guide here with you. This takes almost an hour to go through here. You're going to walk around in the Colosseum. We didn't include this last year, and people said, we want a tour of the Colosseum. So we've added it in. It adds a little bit of time to the tour, but I think it's well worth it. And again, a very historic building. Arch of Constantine. This was built in commemoration of a battle Emperor Constantine won. It's always amazing, and I guess a lot of you probably traveled, how old some of these buildings are. This was built in 321 AD, 300 AD. Think about that, how old some of these things are. So again, it's fenced off, but it's a major landmark in the city of Rome. So we'll stop there for pictures. Circus Maximus, this is where they used to hold the chariot races. It's like a giant arena inside. It's now just a public park. It held 150,000 people during its day. This dates back 600 BC. All right, think about that again, when this was built in the early days of the Roman Empire. And it kind of, after around 600 AD, it kind of went into disuse, and this is what's left of the rubble of the Circus Maximus. So we'll stop there. And then we're going to go over to Vatican City, right? Vatican City is a country in itself. Now, we're not including the Vatican Museum, and I'll show you pictures of that later because of the time that's involved standing in line. We have a free day now in Rome, so you'll have a free day if that's something you really want to do. But we'll get to see, we'll go into St. Peter's Basilica. You'll see Michelangelo's Pietra, the Virgin Mary holding Jesus. And then everybody knows what this is, right? Everybody been here? Trevi Fountain. What do you do at the Trevi Fountain? You throw a coin. You got to throw it with your right hand over your left shoulder. That's the theory, right? It will return a safe trip for you to the eternal city of Rome again. Interesting fact, they recover about $1.5 million in that fountain every year. Every year they clean it out. They do have people that jump into the fountain occasionally, and again, they can be prosecuted, but they do donate all that money to charity. You know, so can you imagine $1.5 million of coins into a fountain? So you'll have to throw a coin in there while you're there. Remember 3 Coins in a Fountain, that movie in the 1950s? Kind of made the fountain very famous back then, and they did throw coins in there during the movie. So you'll have a free day in Rome, so which is kind of nice. I think a lot of our itineraries now combine sightseeing with some free time. You know, I read a lot of valuations of tours, and you'll say, someone will say, not enough time for shopping. On the same tour, people said, all we did is go shopping. Same tour. So we try to balance that a little bit. So we added a free day in Rome. People were saying that we want a little more time in Rome to kind of do their own thing. If you've been there before, there may be something you want to go back to. You've got all the famous shops in Rome on the Via Veneto. These are the famous Spanish Steps. You probably will see that during the tour as well. I get all these travel newspapers. I've been doing this a long time. In June, a man drove down the Spanish Steps, an 80-year-old man, and his car got stuck about halfway. It was a Mercedes. So he got arrested, and he said, well, I was driving to work. Figure that out. Yeah, I took a shortcut. So during the free day, again, you can walk pretty much from the hotel over to the Vatican. This will be something that we'll talk about when we do our pre-trip meeting in 3 weeks before we go. Vatican museums will be something that you'd buy tickets for. We can help you with that if you like, or you can decide maybe when you're there. It does take quite a bit of time. The crowds are pretty big going into the Vatican, but if it's something you want to do and you want to see the Sistine Chapel, this would be something you could do that day on your free day. This is going in through the museum. Keep in mind you'll need your passport on the tour for sure, and you got to need the passport to go into the Vatican because it's a different country. It's its own country. Probably one of the most. This is a picture you can't take pictures in here. You got to buy this picture right in the gift shop. Michelangelo he hung upside down on hammocks to do this painting. It took him, I think, 12 years to do this. He was commissioned, by the Pope to do this, and it's amazing, right? It's just amazing. They did refurbish this about 20 years ago and brightened it up again, but you'll have a chance to go into the Sistine Chapel, and again, you'll see some of the gallery of all the different emperors and things that ruled Rome at the time. We know, I always joke about Italy's a great eating tour, so you may need to work out before you go on a trip like this, but there's pastry shops everywhere, there's pasta everywhere, there's cafes in Europe everywhere you go. That's always amazing. Again, I go on a lot of tours. I was in Croatia earlier this year. Same thing. Croatia's got little shops everywhere. So you'll have to try some gelato while you're there, right? Again, I'm showing you food. We haven't had dinner, but it's part of the trip. So during that free day, again, you'll have some time to roam around. The guide will be with you, to give you ideas and things like that. And again, it could be you could do nothing and just hang out and go walking around, or you could do some shopping, go to the Spanish Steps again, stop at a cafe. So kind of a nice day in Rome before we hit the road down the coast. So we'll board our motor coach and we're going to drive. It's about a 3-hour drive from Rome to Sorrento. Okay, we are going to stop a couple times. We're going to stop at the Monte Cassino Benedictine Monastery. Beautiful, beautiful monastery, about halfway. Very historic. It was a key battle site during World War II between the Nazis were holding this hill and the Allied soldiers were moving in. It was a key battle site and a turning point in the war in Italy. So a lot of it was destroyed. A lot of this has been rebuilt. It sits, you can see the scenery here with the mountains in the background. This is going inside the chapel or into the Basilica. And this is the courtyard outside. So we stop here for about an hour. Again, there'll be a chance for coffee here, walk around, and then we'll board back onto the motor coach. Again, it's always amazing. You go into churches in Europe, the intricacy of the stonework and things and the statues, it's just amazing. And this dates back to the 11th and 12th century. So we go down the coast and we're going to come into the beautiful city of Sorrento, which will be our home for 4 nights. You can see, the Amalfi coast. Sorrento is at the north end of the Amalfi coast, or the Amalfi Drive, and the mountains drop off into the water, right? This is the beauty of it. When we go see these little towns, we go down the coastline. Sorrento is on the far end of it, and it's a famous city, and this is the city itself. It's only a city of 15,000 people. This is it. And this is the largest city that you're going to visit during your drives, during the Amalfi Coast Drive. So we'll spend our 4 nights in Amalfi, or in Sorrento, before we go down to Amalfi. The Hotel Mary is an oceanfront hotel property. So you have beautiful views of the Bay of Naples. And breakfast, you can sit outside al fresco. And they've got a beautiful pool, don't fall off the edge. And again, typical of the rooms that you kind of see in Italy. This is kind of the decor. I think this whole hotel is mostly balconies available, and you can walk down to the water as well. We also use a very similar hotel, Lo Laura. Again, sometimes this trip is one where we have 2 motor coaches. If it sells really well, we would have another motor coach staying at this hotel as well. So you'll have a free night there to have dinner on your own, and then the next morning we're going to do a Sorrento walking tour. This is a bit of walking here. We walk slow. Again, you'll have whisper sets, and the guide will be telling you a little about the history. You'll go down to the waterfront, the Piazza Tasso. This is kind of the central plaza of the city. Again, it's not a big city of only 20,000 people. Architecture is beautiful in this part of Italy. I've got some shots of the shops and things here. I've been to Italy twice. I'm amazed by the people live in these beautiful homes and things like that. It's just amazing. And again, the history is dating back to the Middle Ages. This again is in the main plaza, so when our walking tour ends, you would have time to stop at a cafe and have lunch and things on your own. Chiesa di San Francesco. This is, they say, the heart of where limoncello was developed, right? You'll see lemon groves when we go further down the Amalfi Coast, but we're going to stop and go and see this beautiful church, and then we're going to go over and do a limoncello demonstration. They're going to tell you about the process. You're going to get a tasting. And then, of course, they'll take you into the store afterwards. There's always a store if you've been on tours, right? Anywhere you go to a winery, you're going through the winery store, right? So there'll be a limoncello store that you're going to go into. They're going to tell you all about the process of making this very unique. There's several places that claim to be the originators. This is one of the places. So I won't say it is for sure, but this is their thing. I put this on here. Price is pretty affordable, right? Can everybody see that? 850 euros. And right now the exchange rate's about $1.08 to buy a euro. That's about as good as it's been in the last 25 years. It used to be about 160 at one point. It's gone down. It's kind of stabilized the last year or so, but your dollar is going pretty far in Europe. This is the main little shopping street of Sorrento. And then we'll have another day to explore. So if you're a busy person, you can go do the Isle of Capri, or if you want to just go walk around Sorrento, go down to the water, have a nice leisurely lunch with some wine, you can do that. So we take a little ferry ride. It's about a 25-minute ride from the mainland Sorrento over to the Isle of Capri. You're going to get a motor coach going to take you to the main town. It's called Ana Capri. But these are just some sights here of the island here of Capri if you've not been before. This is the town here, the main town on the island it's called Ana Capri. So this will be an option. This is something you don't need to buy in advance. During the course of the tour, our tour guide will say, who wants to go to Capri on day 4 or whatever, 5, and then you sign up for it during the tour. I think this one's about $120 for the full day tour. And you'll get that in your paperwork and your documents. Via San Michele is a famous villa up on the hill in Capri. You can go up there, walk around. So it's not a planned tour. You're just taking over. There'll be a guide with you, tell you a little about the area, and then you can kind of walk around, do a little bit of exploring. So I threw this map up here to give you an idea. There should be, I don't know if they're all on there, there's 13 towns on the Amalfi Coast Drive. What's amazing, everybody's heard of the Amalfi Drive, right? Everybody's heard of it. It's one of the most famous scenic drives in the world. There's only 13 towns here. It's only 25 miles long. So once we leave Sorrento, we get to Positano. That's kind of the beginning of the Amalfi Coast. And then we're going to go from there, and we're going to stop in Amalfi, and we're going to stop in a few of the other towns. Lots of scenic stops, all right? So you'll see I threw a lot of pictures in here because this is one of the highlight days of the whole trip. It is spectacular. This is the playground of the rich and famous, the jet set of Europe. This is where they party and go for vacations. So you'll see some big yachts in the harbor. This is also a place that you don't want to be do the driving, all right? You got to have a driver. The cliff drops off several hundred feet into the water to the other side, 1,000-foot mountain maybe on the other side, and some of my pictures will capture that. So we're going to have a driver with you throughout this trip. He's done it before, so you're in safe hands. But look at the road. That's the road that we're driving on along the Amalfi Coast. It's just a 2-lane road, and we'll stop in all these little towns. The bus does fit through here. All right. And of course, if you've been to Italy before, Italian drivers are crazy. All right. They drive really fast, little cars. So you're in a big, safe bus. They can bounce off the bus if they want to. Look at the road. You go through that tunnel, and it goes over. There's a little beach below here. I think I got a picture of the beach too. And the boats can go down into the beach area. It's spectacular scenery. So you will make picture stops along the way. This is the town of Ravello. Then we go into Positano. You've probably heard of Positano before. These are towns, I think Positano population 3,000 people. And these are where people live. Can you believe living in those homes? These are where people live with that beautiful view every day. So this is a full day tour, primarily by motor coach. You're on and off the coach. Not a lot of required walking. Again, we're going to make a lot of stops. When we get to Amalfi here in a second, this is the town of Amalfi. Again, I think population about 2,500. This is their Duomo, or the cathedral, on the left. This is one of the little streets I think is always so cool in these little towns when you visit Europe. And again, you can imagine walking through this like in the Middle Ages, several hundred years ago. So we'll stop. You're going to get to see we'll have a little tour of Amalfi, but again, you'll have some time on your own to walk around and have lunch on your own. Cafes everywhere, obviously. This is their beach in Amalfi. Look at all the chairs lined up on the beach, right? This is where people go. In the summer, this will be wall-to-wall people. So after lunch will be here on your own. We're going to go further, but look at the mountains, how they drop off into the water. This is why it's so spectacular. I think I've done the Big Sur coastline. This is more spectacular, more hair-raising to drive as well, I think. I'm afraid of heights, so I sit on the inside of the bus, the inside lane. Imagine having lunch there. Looks like pasta and a fish dish, right? When I travel, my wife I never know what I'm eating. I let her order for me, and I just get stuff, and never sure what it is, but they got great food in Italy, right? That's why we have so many Italian restaurants here, right? Italian food is great, so you'll have your fill of pasta, but there's always chances for other things. Seafood is very popular here. This looks like a seafood pasta dish. This is a little beach area. You can't quite see it down at the very end there, but the water, does my pointer work on there? Yeah, there's a little beach in here between all these homes. So from Amalfi, we're going to drive back down up the coast. We'll go a little further up the Amalfi Drive. Again, it's only 25 miles, and then we will go back up that same. It's the only road. It's a one road trip. So we'll go back again, stopping in Miori. There'll be a little chance for some shopping here, and then that'll be our stay in Sorrento. So that's our 4 days there. You got a free day Sorrento tour. We got the Amalfi Drive, and then we're going to head back up towards Rome. And I think one of the historical highlights here, if anybody been to Pompeii? Anybody been? Needs to be, you've been. Highlight of the whole trip?
Just you can't imagine the history, you can't imagine
Yeah.
seeing where people.
Yeah, I'll show you.
You can't imagine the art that still exists.
Yeah.
Hundreds of years later.
Yeah, so it's amazing. So this I think is a highlight of the trip. There's a lot of walking, and I'll show you some pictures of where we're going. So this is going into the entrance. So I believe it was, and I get the dates right, 79 AD, Mount Vesuvius erupted. It erupted so violently, and this was a very, very wealthy city south of Rome. It's just south of Naples. I think it was a population about 20,000 people. About a third of the people never made it out of the city during the eruption, and they were buried in the ash. So they didn't dig this up until the 1500s. They realized there was a city below the ash, and it wasn't, an archaeological dig didn't start until the late 1700s. So it was buried for 1700 years. So we wait till you see the pictures. This is what the city looks like now. They've uncovered this elaborate city. You can walk through the main street. They had libraries. They had public restrooms back then. And this, again, is dating back to 79 AD. You can go into people's homes and kind of walk through a home. But you'll find also that that's some of the stoneware and pottery and things that they found, again, preserved below this ash for, over 2,000 years now. This was the main street going through Pompeii. And again, you'll have a guide telling you a lot about the history. A lot about the archaeological dig. This was, you can see some of this was rebuilt. This was one of the Roman amphitheaters that was here. The guide's telling us a little about, and then we're going to do some walking. You got to be careful. The walking is not level pavement, as you can expect. Big city, though. It's remarkable that it was so well preserved. You can see some. You're going to walk up these steps. You see some people. We're going to walk through here. So you're going to walk through a big part of the city while you're there. This was a person's home, as you just mentioned. There's paintings and things that survived here, right? This is a building out towards the edge of the city that's completely intact. It's another shot of their main street. This is out in one of the people's gardens. You see the big pots there. Again, you get a kind of a glimpse of what was life like. So these are bodies of people that were buried by the ash. This is where they laid. This is where they were buried. And again, very well preserved. Obviously, we'll stop there. They'll tell you about what life was like a little bit, and it's kind of horrifying a little bit, but it's also a glimpse into history again, going back, to the early Roman days. So that's our visit to Pompeii. That'll take us in the morning. It's on the way towards Naples. We're going to do a city tour of Naples because you've done a little bit of walking, primarily a coach tour. It's a fairly large city. I think it's the third largest city in Rome. This is their cathedral in Naples. We'll stop here, go inside briefly. Plebiscite Square is a big square in the middle of the city, the old royal palace. This is the town hall. This is a castle built out near the water. And then we will have lunch, but our lunch is going to be our farewell dinner, all right? So just the way the timing works on this. So you're going to do a pizza making demonstration, and you're going to make your own pizza, all right? This is our farewell dinner lunch. So you'll have this in the afternoon after our tour, probably about 12:30, 1 o'clock. We'll be having a little later lunch. They do eat late in Italy, by the way. Dinners typically, a lot of people eat dinners 7, 8 o'clock in Italy. If you've been to the Mediterranean, it's where they eat lunch late or eat dinner late. So here we're putting some olive oil on the pizza, throw it in the fire, and then we will sit down. That looks good, right? It's got everything on there. I'm a sausage only guy though, but you got to try everything while you're there. They'll have a chance to have some wine with your pizza for our farewell dinner. And then we will leave Naples and we will head back into Rome. We are going to stay out near the airport. This is the Isla Sacra Hotel. We're staying there because some of the flights go home fairly early back to Chicago. So again, we change this a little bit so people don't have to get up quite as early, and you're right near the airport. So we got the last night. Again, you had your lunch, your farewell lunch. You can have a light dinner at the hotel that night, and then you'd have breakfast there the next morning before we would fly home. So it's a 9-day 10-day, 8-night trip. Again, the first night is flying over. If you've not been to Europe before, I should mention all flights are overnight flights. All right, so you'll fly overnight, so that counts as your 9th night. So it's a 10-day, 9-night. And we're back to the airport, ready to go home. How am I doing on time? Usually I take about 40, 45 minutes, but I got to add in Florence would be a post-tour extension if you'd like to stay longer, if you've not been to Tuscany. I'll click through some of the slides. A beautiful city. This is kind of the iconic shot of Florence. We drive up onto a little hill and you get this picture. On the left is Giotto's bell tower, and that's the famous Florence Duomo or cathedral there on the right. So again, this will be a combination of motor coach, mostly walking. They're going to drive you to a couple scenic spots, but then we're going to be walking through Old Town Florence. The Academy Gallery, one of the most famous museums in the world. What's kept here as a test? David, right? Michelangelo's David. Don't take pictures, they'll take your camera away, just so you know. Even though my wife she was holding her camera down here like this, I got a couple pictures of David. But some of Michelangelo's famous works are kept here. We will go in here for about an hour, hour and a half maybe, before we continue on our tour. We're going to go see the Duomo, the cathedral, Giotto's bell tower. This is the baptistry. This is again a famous church in the middle of the city. And these are called the gates of paradise. There's 8 different gates depicting the different gospels, and they're made out of bronze, so you can get, they're huge gates. And again, we'll have a guide here, a guide with a whisper set telling you all about all the plazas, Statue of Neptune, Church of Santa Croce, beautiful church, Byzantine style architecture. And this is the Ponte Vecchio, if you've heard of this, it goes over the Arno River. And this is where all the great shops are, right? So on the bridge, you can go shopping. They're known for their jewelry, all right, in Florence, as well as their leather goods. So again, this would be where you could go out onto the bridge. Again, we'll have some time in Florence, as I said, to combine. This is what it looks like on the bridge. It looks like a shopping mall, kind of. So you can go out there, and we'll have some free time. And then we'll have a Arrivederci before we head back home. There's no farewell dinner in Florence. Again, you'd be that last night on your own for dinner. And our tour guide will be with you. They'll stay with you on the extension. It's nothing, the extension you would have to decide prior to signing up if you wanted to do that, or when you do sign up. You could change your mind and add it on later, but we do kind of want to get an idea how many are going to do that. You will fly back home. Some reminders, some operational things. Reminder, you'll need a passport, all right, to go on this trip, and it needs to be good for 6 months. We actually had I always tell the story, a Telegraph Herald passenger. We were I go to the airport and meet you in Chicago. Again, I'm not going to come out here, but in Chicago, I may be able to meet you when you transfer. But I meet the group from Dubuque when they come in by bus, and a hand went up and said, "Keith, we need your help." And they wouldn't let the lady check in. Her passport was 5 days short of the 6 months. It was 5 months and 25 days, and they wouldn't let her on the plane for a $5,000 tour. I panicked because, and she wasn't crying. She's a very nice lady. She was a retired teacher. So we're trying to come up with a plan. So I got her an Uber, and she went downtown Chicago, and she got a hotel next to the passport office. All right. They said you couldn't get in, but she stood there at 7 a.m. when the door opened. Somebody let her in. They gave her a passport an hour later. So she came back to the airport the next night. I met her again. We got her on a plane one night late, and she got to, they were going to Greece, I think. She got to Greece 1 day late. Our sister left her, by the way. Her sister kept going. But it's a reminder, you got to look at that date. I couldn't believe they weren't going to let her go. It was the airline, it was Lufthansa they were flying, and they wouldn't let her get on the plane. But we saved it kind of at the last minute. She was very good about it. And she was able to get her passport very quickly. But your passport does need to be legal. A reminder, too, you've probably heard that Americans are going to need a visa to go to Europe soon, right? Has everybody heard this before? It's called an ETIAS, E-T-I-A-S. It's been postponed, kind of like Real ID. Remember Real ID has been going on for about 10 years, right? Now it's finally kicked in. That visa thing for Europe has been postponed to late 26. So don't worry if you see something about it or hear about it. It's been postponed. They got to get the logistics going. So we don't need a visa to go to Europe. You'll just need your passport. $1.08 to a euro, so your money goes far. Use your credit card everywhere you go is the best bet, though. You don't need to have lots of cash anymore when you go on tour. MasterCard, Visa, Discover, American Express, don't count on it too many places. You need a plug adapter. You remember you go to Europe, you need a little plug. That's their plug on there. It's usually a 2-prong thing that you're going to go in there. We'll go over that at the meeting, but you'll need to get a little travel kit. Weather, as I mentioned, probably in the 60s through the most part of the trip. To me, that's good traveling weather. It's not too hot, not too cold. Light jacket, maybe a sweater in the morning. Maybe it warms up to 70 later in the day. And the temperature doesn't drop off much. It's usually in the upper 50s or 60 in the evening. Everything you've seen is included. You've got those two. Naples is actually included now. I forgot to change that, but we just have the Isla Capri option. Everything else is included. If you book, you can sign up on your form here. If you sign up, you can do your deposit by credit card. But if you do your final payment by check, we give you $100 off. You know, we're not incurring the credit card fee, so on that final payment, you get a $100 discount if you pay us by check. Most people do now. Deposits $600 per person. I'll talk a little about insurance and travel protection plan. It's optional, but you need to take that out when you deposit. So this is an important part, and I was telling Kelly when we first met a few months ago, this has been a big plus since the pandemic. The people are all worried when the pandemic hit, when it came out of it, like, what if it happens again? You know, what if something happens? So we're doing a no-risk deposit, no change fees up till 6 months before you go. So if you decide to sign up for this trip, you got about a month and a half or about a month or so that you could change your mind, all right? On the Canada trip that's going in July, we've got like 6 more months that people could change their mind. After the 180 days, up till final payment is 90 days, you can still change your mind, and we would just apply your deposit for a future trip. We call future travel credit, so you never really lose your money. Kelly said we're going to do even more trips in 2027, so you could go on another trip in the future with us. Once the 90 days hits, that's when the cancellation policies kick in, and it's always, insurance is always in fine print, but we'll talk a little about the insurance program. That's on the back of the flyer. So sign-up form is pretty self-explanatory. You're going to put in here Air Gateway CID, Cedar Rapids. All right. If you want to fly from somewhere else, we do need to know that. We added this line in about 2 or 3 years ago. People were saying, oh, my sister's coming, but she lives in Atlanta or something, and we didn't know that. You can also do land only. If you want to do something else, fly from somewhere else, Grace can give you that price for land only tour if you want to do that on your own. And then the insurance program, you check that off and you would deposit for that. You pay for that with your deposit. So the travel protection plan, I think, is more critical when you're going overseas because most of your insurance is not going to cover you in Europe. Medicare and most insurance companies aren't. You may have one that does, so you may not need this. But it's a two-part thing, and it's one price. I think on this one, International's gone up a little bit, $425. Pretty similar to most companies. I know most of the major companies, when they're all about $400. Prior to the trip, it gives you cancellation protection if you become ill prior to the trip leaving, up to a day before it leaves. Something happens, you get sick, you can't go, we get a doctor's statement, we send you all your money back, and if your traveling companion doesn't want to go, they get their money back as well. All right, so pretty safe bet. If you just change your mind, we do have any reason cancellation. We changed this a couple years ago. I had a client, couldn't go on a trip, their dog got sick. All right, that's not covered in 20 policies. So instead of taking all your money, you get credit for a future trip. The reason it's not 100%, we've typically paid for your airline ticket. We're not getting that money back, so you've kind of lost that part. But you get 75% of your money back. Once you get to Italy, then Part B kicks in. This would be the medical part. You get sick, you get hurt. Nobody's going to get hurt on our trip, right? No. But it can happen. Typically, cobblestone streets and curbs, people trip and they sprain their wrist or something like that. That tends to be the injuries we get. You are covered for medical coverage. All the details are on the back, and I can answer questions on that a little later. But this is something that you don't have to take. I do get some clients occasionally that say, I'm going to book it on my own online. You can go onto any insurance company and book it. You just have to tell them your tour and the cost and all those things. But this is kind of an easy way for people to do it. Not everybody takes it, but I'm going to say most take it. Prices are very similar. A lot of the companies do it by age. We just have one blanket price to make it easy, especially easy for Grace and our group leaders. My arm's tired from holding this microphone. If you go on a trip with us, you get $100 off on future trips. Again, we're going to be doing more trips, hopefully, because we're planning trips already for 27. So you get another $100 off on the Compass Club. And hopefully you enjoyed all my pictures. I'm going to answer questions. Some of the beautiful coastline. So hopefully you may join us on this trip, and maybe another one. Maybe everybody's still awake? All right, well, thank you. And again, we're going to take questions. Grace, where are you? Come on up, Grace, so they know who you are also. Not to embarrass you, but you're the main contact. Questions? The people that are signed up are already, you still want to go, hopefully? Okay, good. Somebody told me, he said, you showed me too many pictures. I've already seen the whole tour. You got to see stuff, live. Questions, comments? Okay. When there's no questions, it's either I did a really good job or nobody wants to go. Yeah, fire away.
So this day when you're on your own and you could go to the Vatican?
Yes. Yeah.
Does
Well,
somebody help you set
yeah,
that up?
our guide will be there. You can help set up. We're going to meet here about 3 weeks before. Also, if it's something you really, really want to do, say, I want to go to the Vatican, let Grace know so that she can let me know and we can get the information for you. I don't know the cost of what it costs, but you can get into the Vatican. We're going to go into the Vatican, but you want to go into the museum, right? Yeah, the one day, the tour of Rome, we're going into the Vatican, but within the Vatican is also the Museum of the Vatican. We're not including that anymore because of the time involved. It's hard to fit that in on a city tour. So that would be something you can do on the free day. And that's what you'd like to do, see the museum, the Sistine Chapel, etc. So let Grace know if you sign up and just say, hey, I want to get into the Vatican Museum. We've changed this so that I've got to find out what the process is. It used to be included. And I guess it was an operational nightmare a little bit with 50 people trying to get them into the museum.
I have celiac disease. Do you take into account food allergies?
Yes, yeah. Again, we would want to know that in advance, preferably. Question was, what about food allergies? Whether you got celiac and you need, gluten-free. One of my daughters is gluten-free, so we take, and we have a lot of people with that. So yeah, we would just want to know that in advance. We would put that, we have a rooming list that the tour guide gets, and your name would be next to say needs gluten-free diet or whatever. And you always, and all the meals, all the dinners, you have a choice of meal as well. We don't just say, okay, everybody's eating pizza tonight, except for the pizza making dinner. Anything else? We're good? Yes?
So you said at Cedar Rapids we could find with somebody else. What's the total amount of people?
44 is our total max. It varies a little bit depending on how many singles we have. We have X amount of rooms. If we have a lot of singles, then the number maybe is a little less than 44. But 44 is typically our max on this. The buses usually seat 50 or 52. We don't put people in the back row or anything. The tour guide usually has a couple seats up front, so every seat's not filled. We'll know a little more after we know how many are signed up here. I can't remember where the other group, I think it was from Arkansas maybe, I can't remember. We'll know in a few weeks kind of roughly about how much interest we have. We're assuming here we're going to get 15 or 20 probably from our first trip off the ground. Anything else? So Grace will be taking sign up starting today again, right? If you don't want to sign up today, your office is where? Do they know?
It's the Gazette downtown on 3rd Street.
So they'd ask for you?
They can ask. You can ask for me, or I have business cards here. If you want to call me or email me, I'm available to help you get signed up. But we have people who will help you sign up today if you're really interested in signing up for trips.
Yeah, and again, you can still cancel. I'm not pushing people. A lot of our trips have been selling out. We have lots of wait lists on trips, so I'm competing against other groups around the country, so we want to make sure you don't lose out. I would get your name in, as soon as possible. And again, if you change your mind in the next month or so, you let Grace know and we send your money back. Hopefully you'd want to go. All righty. Well, I'm going to be here. Grace is going to be here. We got another meeting at 6:30. You're welcome to hang around for a while. There's cookies left, I think. Mm-hmm. All right. But
Want to hear about Canadian Rockies?
if you're going to, Canadian Rockies, another interesting, very different destination. But again, thank you for coming out. Appreciate you being here. And some of you who are going, I will see you again next March, probably in the winter. All right. Thank you.